Our tale begins in a mysterious realm where our protagonist takes in the sight of people wielding swords and clad in unusual attire that seems to harken back to another era. There's even a hint of nostalgia in their demeanor, and somehow, as he watches them, the surroundings feel oddly familiar. Before he can ponder this further, an unfamiliar receptionist calls out to him, asking if the young man, Jin Frey, is there to register as an adventurer without delay. He confirms with a confident "Yes," all the while feeling the ever-present tingle of recognition for this place and its inhabitants. His registration is processed in mere seconds, and suddenly, a blue screen materializes before his eyes. The unexpected display startles him initially, yet a wave of déjà vu quickly floods his thoughts. He finds himself staring intently at his palm as memories of a past life overwhelm him. A life filled with endless hours spent immersed in the game Grand 7, where he once chased gold across the 7 seas in pursuit of world peace. Despite these vivid recollections, something doesn't quite add up. Jin Frey had been an ordinary person dreaming of adventuring to earn money and support his family. Yet now he finds himself reborn within the very universe of his favorite game. Gradually, his initial doubts melt away into sheer confidence. The receptionist, alarmed by his odd behavior, asks if he's all right. With his pride soaring, he reassures her that his eccentric gestures are nothing more than the natural excitement of a true warrior. Glancing at the system screen, Jin Frey tries to rationalize why his consciousness retains memories from his former life. But no logical explanation comes to mind. Instead, he resolves to use this inexplicable advantage to forge ahead. With a warm smile, the receptionist wishes him good luck, and he steps through a portal, coming face to face with a dazzling locale known as the baptismal altar. The area mirrors precisely that from his cherished game, and within moments he finds himself among 4 others in the tutorial stage. The arrangement is identical, save for one crucial difference. Failure here likely means no opportunity for a second chance. Nevertheless, his confidence remains unshaken, bolstered by the fact that he has memorized the entire game guide. Soon, an announcement signals the commencement of the challenge and invites participants to select their equipment. Jin Frey observes as one contestant dashes forward to claim the best weapon among an assortment of medieval choices: bows, swords, spears, and rapiers. Notably, the spear boasts a base attack of 21, which sparks a heated argument between 2 participants, while another pair immediately starts brawling over a sword with 19 attack. This chaos seems normal, as Jin Frey recalls that one's performance at the baptismal altar directly affects the job system, an aspect that proves particularly unforgiving to newbies, something he had experienced by resetting the game countless times in search of a favorable result. Amid the commotion, one of the participants notices that Jin Frey still hasn't made a choice, which irks a bald rival. Unfazed, Jin Frey strolls through the selection area with his hands in his pockets, bypassing remaining weapons until he halts before a modest common sword, its capabilities modestly priced at merely 1 attack. As Thomas begins to jab on about how opting for such a weapon would ruin his chances of landing a good job, Jin Frey pays him no heed. Unbeknownst to the others, he has already formulated a master plan far beyond what any game-savvy mob could conceive. Finally, he selects what is called the Walrus Sword in the tutorial, and with that decision, the challenge begins, set to last only 5 minutes. A swarm of insects appears as his adversaries, and the objective is clear: defeat as many of these creatures as possible. The adventurers quickly assume their battle positions. Jin Frey recalls that this particular monster is known as the Winged Centipede, a creature that only appears at the onset, famed for its paralyzing venom potent enough to incapacitate even the strongest opponents. Amid a mock challenge from Baldy, who dares him to survive until the tutorial's end, Jin Frey chooses simply to ignore the taunts. As the monsters advance from all directions, he is struck by the eerie resemblance of their movements to those in the game, leading him to deduce that their weak points must lie in the same spots. When a winged centipede charges at him, he employs the game's critical hit system, drawing his sword and striking directly at the center of its body. He lands a fatal blow in one swift motion. Following his attack, he even poses in a dramatic, Power Rangers Minnesque manner that leaves the other tutorial participants in awe. though one of them dismisses it as mere luck. In truth, Jin Frey wasn't only exploiting the critical hit mechanic, he had also uncovered a glitch in the tutorial. By hitting an enemy's weak spot with that particular small sword, every subsequent attack became a one-hit kill. With this newfound strategy, Jin Frey faces an onslaught of monsters with ease, even as most others struggle. The bald man with the spear, meanwhile, kills 2 monsters and boasts about his imminent acquisition of the best job. Yet when the challenge concludes, each participant's performance is analyzed to determine their potential jobs. One contestant frowns bitterly after killing no monsters and facing the prospect of unemployment as an adventurer, while the bald one continues his self-aggrandizing outburst, exclaiming, "Wow, 15! I'm incredible! Appreciate my presence," before turning his derision toward Jin Frey. Calmly reviewing his own performance, Jin Frey is once again bemused by the bald man's obnoxious behavior. When Thomas finally inspects his individual results, he is astounded to discover that Jin Frey, against all odds and using the supposedly inferior weapon, has defeated 33 monsters and now qualifies for all the top-tier jobs of the game. Unable to retort further, the bald man sputters, I guess I can be a swordsman too then." Even as the taunts continue, Jin Frey graciously congratulates his rival before refocusing on his priorities. With the knowledge that jobs like swordsman and summer are revered by many, he makes his decision. Instead of following the common choices, he opts for the role of combiner, and as a bonus for selecting his first job, he receives an initial piece of equipment. This decision shocks the entire group. The bald man with the spear ridicules him, claiming his choice is among the worst. In response, Jin Frey smirks mischievously and opens his inventory, aware that true success with a combiner profession hinges on how the player exploits it. His real aim in defeating 33 monsters was to amass a specific trio of items obtainable only on the tutorial map. Perplexed, the bald man can only gape in astonishment as Jin Frey begins to merge the 3 items with his shabby short sword. Thanks to the combiner's ability to fuse particular items into new creations, the short sword undergoes a remarkable transformation into an entirely new weapon. Now dubbed a centipede, this weapon shatters the basic mechanics of the game, its attack power leaping from a meager 1 to a whopping 66, complete with a critical ability that inflicts triple damage when striking an enemy's weak point. It turns out this secret item was something only he was privy to. After the tutorial wraps up, it's revealed that an adventurer's true strength is determined by their level and chosen profession, with equipment merely serving to boost attack and defense. However, some gear contravenes these norms and is classified as secret equipment. With the challenge over, Jin Frey sets off toward the adventurer city. He finds the bustling main streets filled with commerce strangely familiar. Along the way, a vendor offers him apples. He decides to buy one as he ponders his next challenge, the apple fueling him both literally and figuratively. His mission is straightforward, to clear the S-rank dungeons scattered across every continent, knowing full well that rising in level is the key to conquering those daunting trials. Typically, most players began with rank F dungeons, but our protagonist skipped right to a rank C1 dungeon. His objective was straightforward, defeat the local boss in order to progress, even though he was only level 1. Jin Frey recalled that this dungeon was recommended for players between levels 17 and 30, yet before he could ponder a strategy to compensate for his low defense, a level 17 monster burst into view ready to attack. Reacting quickly, the hero summoned his centipede and prepared for battle. Even though he was 16 levels below the monster, normally an insignificant threat, he knew that a single hit would be fatal due to the demon's rapid attacks. However, Jin Frey was no novice in combat. He understood the monster's pattern and anticipated that after a swift attack, it would become vulnerable. Seizing his chance, he moved in to target the weak spot and effortlessly sliced the creature in 2. With that victory, he leaped 9 levels at once. His basic attributes surged, and he immediately allocated his special points to maximize his defense. Pleased with his progress and excited by the untapped potential of his centipede, Jin Frey realized he could now take on rank B dungeons. Still, he knew that the centipede's true value remained locked, so he opted to level up a bit further while pressing towards the dungeon boss. As he strolled through the forest, he noticed a surrounding circle of creatures. 3 new monsters had emerged, ready to attack. Among them was the Black Cobra, regarded as a minor boss in the area, and it was highly unusual to encounter 3 at once, leaving him no time to hesitate. One of the cobras charged at full speed, but Jin Frey managed to dodge at the last second. Aware of the cobra's aggressive nature, he nearly got caught off guard by an attack from its blind spot, but he quickly jumped aside. No sooner had he landed than 2 cobras launched a double charge. Despite knowing their attack pattern, the hero had to remain calm, recalling precisely where to strike for a critical hit. He leaped toward the neck of one cobra, only to have his blow blocked easily, making him realize they were protecting each other. This defensive behavior was entirely out of character compared to other creatures he had faced in the game. Taking advantage of the distraction, one cobra attacked him from behind and managed to land the first direct hit with chilling precision. In response, he used his centipede to counter. With a clean vertical slash executed in perfect harmony with his twisting torso, he dispatched one of the cobras. Mid-battle, Jin Frey gained 3 additional levels after defeating the Black Cobra, but his HP had dropped to 8, leaving him severely wounded. Thankfully, his decision to maximize defense ensured he could absorb 2 hits from local monsters. Furthermore, after eliminating enough foes, he'd unlocked a second ability for his centipede. Recognizing his temporary vulnerability while still on the ground, the remaining 2 monsters attempted to capitalize on the situation. Quickly, Jin Frey reallocated his attributes, sacrificing all defense points to maximize speed, and within a flash, he defeated both foes in one swift motion. The centipede's new ability boosted its speed tenfold as long as his AP remained low. After the 2 monsters collapsed, Jin Frey, using his style points, muttered that he regretted not reaching level 17, the recommended level, for the dungeon. Yet he decided to press on without resting, knowing that recovering HP would forfeit the centipede's speed buff. Determined, he executed another quick strike on an enemy's weak point, posing stylishly as the defeated foe tumbled behind him. It appeared that by targeting weaker monsters, the hero minimized risk while accruing valuable experience. His plan was to hone his combiner skills before the boss fight, and he mentally reviewed the extensive list of required items while dispatching more local enemies with ease. The sheer quantity of items needed reminded him of why so many had despised this game in his past life, yet complaining was futile. Resolutely, he set out to gather the necessary materials before facing the local boss. Time passed inside the dungeon, and Jin Frey hadn't yet gathered half of the materials he sought, only 3 out of the 7 required items. Suddenly, a voice called his name from behind. Turning around, he came face to face with someone from his old village, a man who, with a mocking tone, called him a loser, as if it were a nickname. It turned out this familiar face was Julius, an adventurer for the past 2 to 3 years, who began ridiculing him about his combiner class. Julius boasted about his superiority, lamenting how their mutual acquaintance was the poorest in the village, and treating Jin Frey like a stray without feelings. Before Jin Frey could process this verbal assault, he began hearing a voice in his head that narrated his character's entire backstory from the game. Interrupting this internal monologue, Julius baselessly threatened him, reminiscent of a shameless antagonist trying to justify his own actions in a high-level dungeon. Then, a deep, ominous sound echoed from the nearby forest. The nameless side character immediately panicked, and the main dungeon boss, a level 31 cyclops, appeared on the scene. Julius, frozen with fear, urged his friend to run. Meanwhile, the hero realized that he had been marked as an enemy by the cyclops. The creature raised its massive club, preparing a brutal strike that instantly annihilated the cowardly character. At that moment, even Jin Frey felt the weight of reality. In the dungeon's most critical moment, Julius also crumpled to the ground in terror, and before long the Cyclops fixed its gaze on another target, Jin Frey. For the first time, the hero doubted his own confidence, but the Cyclops remained indifferent, quickly launching another attack. Thanks to his exceptional speed, Jin Frey barely dodged the blow. As the Cyclops marked him as its opponent, escape was not an option. He had to fight. With a thunderous roar, the Cyclops raised its club again and unleashed a devastating strike that narrowly missed the hero. Already well versed in the boss's attack patterns, Jin Frey used his superior speed to dodge instinctively, while Julius, still in shock, watched in disbelief as the fight intensified. Realizing that endless running would solve nothing, Jin Frey capitalized on an opening when the Cyclops club struck the ground, causing the earth to tremble. Seizing his chance, he swiftly climbed onto the club, infuriating the boss further. With determination, he jumped onto the creature's left hand, gaining upward momentum. Hovering just above the Cyclops' back, Jin Frey aimed precisely at its nape, planning to use his downward momentum to deliver a maximum force strike. Life, however, was not a fairy tale. Instead of weakening the beast, his attack only enraged it further. The Cyclops attempted to counter by striking its own back, but it was too sluggish. In an unprepared battle like this, victory was never simple. Julius, who had earlier boasted about his own prowess, could only watch from his hiding spot in a bush, astonished by the speed with which Jin Frey fought. Meanwhile, the Cyclops continued its relentless assault, and Jin Frey, realizing he was running out of safe options, dashed off to search for the missing ingredients. As he scoured the area near the bush where Julius had cowered, he discovered all the remaining materials. Without hesitation, he gathered the items and sourced some water from the surroundings. Once he had everything, he activated his combiner ability to create a potent poison contained in a purple flask. Although Julius was skeptical that his simple poison would affect the monster, Jin Frey used previously collected snake items to formulate an even stronger toxin, surprising Julius, who had underestimated his abilities. Jin Frey uncorked the flask and merged the poison with his centipede, which transformed once more to reveal its true blade form. For a brief moment, Julius almost forgot about the giant Cyclops and appeared ready to launch a brutal counterattack. But with his newfound confidence, the protagonist re-entered the fray. The Cyclops raised its towering club once again, but his attack missed Jin Frey as the hero, maintaining his formidable speed, awaited another mistake from the beast. Dodging with a simple movement during the Cyclops' most savage swing, Jin Frey leaped once more near its nape and prepared an even deadlier strike. This surprise assault landed several rapid slashes in the same area, forcing the boss to roar in agony. The monstrous creature tried to rely on its high resilience to nullify the poison, but it wasn't enough. Desperate, the Cyclops repeatedly attempted to purge the centipede's effect, and slowly its legs began to weaken. Seizing this opportunity, Jin Frey's calm and precise final strike hit the monster right in the eye, delivering a direct critical blow that forced it to collapse in pain. Landing gracefully on solid ground, Jin Frey struck a hero's pose as the Cyclops finally fell, while Julius, stunned, could hardly believe his eyes, questioning whether this was the same person he once knew. As the tension dissipated, Julius, now thoroughly terrified of becoming the next target, bolted away. Jin Frey lowered his guard and contemplated his next steps. Opening his inventory, he discovered he had earned 350,000 gold coins, a remarkably high sum for a boss of that level. This reward would allow him to help his beloved mother, though the primary prize was the Cyclops Eye, a cycloxy of rarity C repulsive to carry. Yet with it, he could forge his next piece of secret equipment that would leave the dungeon behind him. Relocating to an area called the Flat Plain, a place that evoked nostalgic feelings, he recalled that his ultimate goal was to defeat the demon gods spanning all 7 continents, starting with this one. However, for that, he needed another secret equipment, and to create it, the Cyclops Eye was necessary. As he ventured further, a pack of wolf-like monsters ambushed him, but he easily defeated them while electing to level up further before, continuing his quest to vanquish all demon gods, establish global peace, earn enough money for his mother, and silence those who doubted him. This was his grand plan, to become stronger above all else. Before long, rumors spread of a young adventurer who had dismantled 33 monsters during the tutorial phase. The name Jin Frey van Ravy began to echo through cities, with whispers about the mysterious boy's identity and appearance. Yet Jin Frey remained focused on leveling up alone. Although he had collected almost all the necessary items, one remained missing: cobalt bird feathers. They weren't from a particularly rare monster, but they were the last piece he needed. Out of the 7 dungeons on the first continent, where 6 ranged from rank F to rank A, The last one, harboring the demon, God, was rank S. His current location had the best chance to spawn the cobalt bird, and eventually he managed to find one. With this in mind, the hero decided to take a short break and head to the city in search of information. Walking through the city in search of a shop, one store in particular caught his eye. For some unknown reason, when he tried to open the door, screams erupted from within. A group of thieves was robbing the establishment, barging past everyone in their escape, even shoving a small girl aside. Quick on his feet, Jin Frey caught the girl just before she fell down a flight of steps, which mildly irritated him regarding these scoundrels. The girl's mother thanked him for saving her, and soon after, the shop owner appeared, fuming over the robbery. As they spoke, the owner mentioned a notorious group of thieves known as the Mountain Dogs Guild, who had taken over the local area. Listening to the merchant's grievances, Jin Frey began to suspect this might be why he still hadn't located the missing item. Soon enough, while eavesdropping on the thieves' conversation about their recent exploits and the possibility that the stolen goods might include cobalt bird feathers, Jin Frey's determined gaze landed on small glass jars with a blue tint. Unbeknownst to him, the thieves were also discussing the adventurer who had made headlines by defeating 33 monsters. They mentioned that Jin Frey was so focused on formulating a plan to steal from them that he didn't realize their conversation centered on him. Before he could act further, one thief appeared directly behind him, brandishing a knife. Thanks to his stealth ability, Jin Frey hadn't noticed the attacker until it was too late. Attempting to avoid a confrontation, he tried offering an excuse, but the thief saw through his disguise. The assailant made a quick slash, yet Jin Frey dodged deftly, summoning his centipede into his right hand while easily evading another strike. Capitalizing on the bandit's momentum, the hero kicked his supporting leg, sending the thug sprawling and knocking him out with a sharp blow to the back of his neck. The commotion drew the attention of the other bandits, who now eyed the intruder suspiciously. Realizing he couldn't talk his way out, Jin Frey declared plainly that he was only after some cobalt bird feathers, holding an impressively dangerous blade in hand to underline his point. Realizing that a fight was now inevitable, he cast aside any pretense of weakness and charged forward with brute force. The thieves unsheathed their weapons. One rushed at Jin Frey, but his attack was easily sidestepped as the hero struck the man's nose with the flat side of his blade. The other bandits gaped on as their ally cried out in pain. A second thief attempted a rear assault, but Jin Frey ducked and delivered a swift kick to his chest while spinning. Another assailant lunged with a spear, only for the hero to seize the weapon with one hand, pull the attacker closer, and then land a punishing punch to his stomach, a blow so powerful that the game system flagged it as a critical hit. In turn, a bandit wielding a giant axe swung upward in a broad slash. Jin Frey squatted and dodged effortlessly, then struck the attacker's chin with the centipede's hilt. Despite his attempts to explain his non-aggressive intentions and insist he only wanted the cobalt bird feathers, a stealthy thief, who had also shoved the little girl earlier, caught him off guard. The man, proficient in stealth and nearly landing a precise strike, confronted Jin Frey directly. Both combated each other with locked eyes, until the man introduced himself as Submaster Masuo of the guild, expecting his name to instill fear. Jin Frey, unfazed, replied he'd never heard of Masuo before, fueling the Submaster's anger. Masuo then resumed his attack, boasting about the superiority of his high-grade weapon over the hero's basic tutorial armor, and claiming that an adventurer's skills, not equipment, truly mattered. From the very start, merely by observing Jin Frey's attire, Masuo concluded he was just a common combiner, and went on to challenge him to guess his profession, arguing that without knowing it, one couldn't predict his combat abilities. However, Jin Frey, armed with a comprehensive in-game walkthrough in his mind, simply dismissed the challenge. Casually, he stated that Masuo was nothing more than a petty thief. Enraged by this blatant disrespect, Masuo roared that he was, in fact, a summoner, a member of one of the two strongest classes taught in the tutorial. Jin Frey began to pity the man's misplaced arrogance, careful not to underestimate him, knowing that one wrong move could cost him his life. Determined to end the skirmish swiftly, he charged at high speed with a sharp attack. Before he could land the blow, however, two stealthy bandits ambushed him from behind. Forced into an acrobatic flip, Jin Frey narrowly avoided a direct hit to his stomach. Regaining his balance, he used a lateral strike with the centipede's hilt against the vulnerable parts of Masuo, delivering an almost supercritical hit that elicited a scream so loud it shattered nearby windows. As Masuo's lackeys rushed over to check on their master, Jin Frey tried to apologize for what had just happened, then seized the chance to create an intimidating silence over the assembled criminals. He demanded they surrender the cobalt bird feathers or face the same fate as Masuo. The thieves complied immediately, but in the background, more people emerged, pointing fingers at the hero and murmuring that he might belong to a rival guild. With frustration mounting and now completely surrounded, Jin Frey observed the bandits in disbelief that so much chaos had erupted over one person. As they scrutinized the defeated Masuo, some even speculated that this kid must have been drunk to have bested him. Amid all the absurd assumptions, the hero could only listen in astonishment until a commanding voice sounded from the back. The speaker, clearly the strongest member of the guild, was instantly approached by his comrades, who began calling him Master as they explained the situation. While waiting, Jin Frey tried to deduce the man's identity. Finally, the Master eyed his downed subordinate and inquired which guild the young adventurer belonged to. Jin Frey replied that he was unaffiliated and traveling alone, a remark that surprised the guild master. After a brief chuckle, he declared he liked the kid, offering him a chance to join his crew. Stunned, Jin Frey listened as the master explained that under normal circumstances he would have beaten him up, but having defeated Masuo, he was evidently not weak. Still, when the master invited him for drinks at the bar, the hero immediately rebuffed the offer with a dismissive slap, insisting he had only come for the cobalt bird feathers. This reply visibly infuriated the master, who trembled with wrath as Jin Frey continued to berate the guild, condemning their exploitation of the weak. In an instant, the master withdrew a giant axe and struck the ground with lethal force, shattering the surrounding area and kicking up a cloud of dust. He then proclaimed that he had changed his mind. This was the first time he had encountered someone so reckless, and stated that if Jin Frey did not submit, he would forcibly make him his subordinate. Jin Frey quickly deduced that this opponent was far more than a mere common thief. As the master lunged, Jin Frey dodged another swing, flipped backward with a somersault to avoid a concluding attack from below, and countered with a lateral strike while crouching to gain momentum. His surprise attack caught the master off guard, landing a direct hit to the right side of his abdomen. Although the blow did not defeat the master outright, it was clear he underestimated the determined kid staring back at him. The master then unequipped his axe, momentarily confusing Jin Frey until he realized that his foe was actually a fighter, a combat specialist who actively enhanced his physical strength, tripling his attributes for 3 minutes during battles. As the fighter re-equipped his weapon, his guild cheered, observing their leader's serious struggle. The two exchanged fierce glares until the master threw a rapid jab toward Jin Frey's face. The hero dodged just in time, though the punch shattered a nearby wall. Aware that one of the fighter's blows could obliterate him, Jin Frey continued to evade, then finally launched a critical counterattack with the centipede straight into the master's stomach. The forceful hit made the master scream in agony and collapse, leaving his subordinates in stunned silence. One of them muttered in disbelief, wondering if this kid was indeed the adventurer from the news. As the thieves began to panic and flee, realizing they had been outmatched by the true protagonist of this tale, Jin Frey attempted to speak but was drowned out by the chaos. Ultimately, he collected the cobalt bird feathers and returned the stolen items to the grateful merchants. Following that event, the hero entered a rank B dungeon, dispatched the local boss with ease, and approached an enigmatic altar. Jin Frey paused to remark on the noticeable absence of the fallen goddess statue. He surmised that solving its mechanism would grant him the second secret equipment. Removing some items from his inventory, he placed the cyclops eye on the statue's face and the cobalt feather on its right wing. Activating the hidden mechanism, the statue began to weep tears of joy that collected into a golden chalice, finally bestowing upon him an item named Lucifer Halo. This artifact possessed two passive abilities: mind-eating and magical perception. With these powers, it was easy to understand why the challenge had been so difficult. Jin Frey eyed the statue one more time, pleased with his reward, and promptly equipped it. The new accessory felt odd on his head, almost making him seem like a spirit, but he didn't worry as long as others didn't think it was overpowered. Now armed with 2 secret pieces of equipment, he prepared for his first rank a dungeon. However, as soon as he arrived at the dungeon's location, all his excitement was quickly negated. The Agni volcano could only be explored by a group of 7 or more, and no such group was recruiting members at the time. After clearing a rank a dungeon, it would respawn elsewhere on the same continent, and whoever defeated it would gain a title to proceed to the second continent. Eager to progress, Jin Frey mulled over his options until he noticed a group led by Freyna, the flame mage, who everyone in the room was discussing. Intrigued by this person, he observed the group curiously. In that moment, the mind-reading ability of Lucifer Halo activated, revealing that Freyna was anxious to enter the dungeon but lacked one member. Excited again, the hero approached the group and, with all the confidence in the world, asked if he could join them. Almost immediately, his unusual halo drew attention. One member explained that they weren't yet planning to explore and implored him to leave. Reading their minds, Jin Frey realized their real concern was that their missing member was hospitalized, leaving them stranded. With resolute boldness, he insisted on hearing directly from their leader, who appeared visibly anxious, perhaps not only about the missing member, but also about the strange halo on his head. The hero quickly composed himself, apologized, introduced himself, and explained that he too was eager to dive into the dungeon. Upon hearing his name, the group recalled that this was the same kid from the headlines who had defeated 33 monsters during the tutorial, and they were both astonished and skeptical. One member even doubted he could possibly be as strong as the reports claimed. Despite the judgment and name-calling, Jin Frey felt increasingly irritated with his new companions. Before he could dwell on it, his passive ability, magical perception, kicked in. He instantly detected several monsters charging toward the group. Shouting orders for the shield-bearing member to protect everyone, Jin Frey warned that chaos was imminent. At first, the shield guy seemed confused, but as a nearby volcano erupted, he finally sprang into action, creating a reflective barrier around the group as flaming rocks pounded down. As they braced against the barrage, Freyna ordered everyone to remain still and took command by casting her spell Amiturember, which summoned a massive magic circle beneath their feet as she raised her staff. With a powerful gust of magic, she deflected the raining stones, leaving everyone silent and even impressing Jin Frey with her skills. Yet, as if this were not enough, a crack splintered the ground beneath them, causing the terrain to collapse in seconds. Arthur, one of the group members, nearly fell into the chasm, but thanks to Jin Frey's quick reflexes, he grabbed Arthur by the wrist. The two of them peered down into the dark abyss even as rocks continued to tumble, and suddenly Jin Frey himself slipped into the hole, landing hard alongside Arthur atop something soft, a level 38 creature called the cotton bat that had been dozing peacefully. Remembering that his new secret item brought him an unusual amount of luck, Jin Frey believed that perhaps this fortunate strike had saved them. However, he soon forgot that the beast was no longer sleeping as it roused with a deafening screech. Cautioning Arthur to get off the creature quickly, the hero explained some of the bat's abilities, including its capacity for impact absorption, which could amplify the damage from their fall. Arthur, unperturbed and brandishing a modest dagger, quipped that he didn't require a lesson in basics, while Jin Frey insisted that the true fight was about to begin. The bat emitted an ear-splitting screech that sent shockwaves and rocks flying, but Jin Frey dodged the projectiles, saving Arthur and urging him to take the threat seriously. Rising in volume, the hero drew his centipede once more as the impending battle with the cotton bat loomed.